welcome back to Miss Sosa's hair cutting tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about how to texturize. I do have my class in here with me today, and I do want to point out we've done the one length bob. I like to call it the Dora bob. You can see that there's a lot of weight building up, right? You can see that where it's really nice and solid. It looks like it's one length. When you see this cut on celebrities or anybody that's wearing it, you'll notice that when you shake the hair, you can see how heavy it is. Well, when people wear this, they want to see a lot of movement in the haircut without seeing a lot of layers. So that's what we're going to create. We're going to work on different ways to texturize and add movement. So when I say texturizing, I mean we're going to add movement to the hair. So in other words, right now we've got a lot of weight building up. We're gonna like take the weight out so that way she can have more movement on the end. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is, where do we see the most weight being built up? Right at the bottom, right? So that's where I'm going to focus a little bit more of my texturizing. So I'm going to have my client just kind of look forward. Another thing that I want to point out, when you are texturizing, you want to do it on a dry mannequin or on a dry client, right? So you would style the hair out, and this is a good way for you to kind of tell your clients, hey, I've shampooed your hair, we've blow dried it, or if they don't want it to be blow dried, you can talk them into it by saying, I can customize your cut more because I can see where there's still weight in the haircut. Okay, so that's how I would always kind of share with my clients and educate them. How can I create more movement or customize their haircut more to them and what their needs are just by having them blow dry and styling their hair. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to start right at the bottom. And the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my finger and I'm going to just kind of curve it around like I'm following the occipital bone, right? So my occipital bone just kind of curves around that back of the head here. So I'm going to do that with my finger angle, just kind of create a little C here and ever so lightly. And you can see that dark line that's created. I'm going to go in with the point of my shears and just go in and create little triangles. I'm just trying to remove a little bit of the weight. So think about it when you're doing this, you're just trying to lighten up those ends, okay? I'm not trying to cut layers. I'm not trying to cut hair, which is why I'm not going in solid or blunt. I'm going in with my point, okay? And you can already start to see that start to soften up a little bit. So I'm going to just go around really quickly, creating those little triangles. You see that? I'm not taking very much off. Now, how do I know where I need to take a little bit more off versus leaving a little bit more on? You can see how it's really dark in some areas. Can y'all see that? Right? It's a little bit darker in some areas. And so I'm just going to go in and soften up that line. Okay, I'm going to work my way around. So this is what I would do just in that back part right here. And you can see my finger angle just creating a little curvature to that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to create a little bit more movement into my haircut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this technique, it's called a fan cutting. So I'm going to take, and you can see, I'm just taking really nice vertical sections. You don't want to take too big or too wide of a section because then you start to think that your hair is thicker than it actually is. So just make sure that your sections or the subsections that you're working in are not too thick. So here we go. I'm going to leave about 2 inches out. I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to curve that around. Okay, so you see that how that hair just kind of fans out. So again, going in and looking to see where the hair is a little bit darker. So you can see right down here, it's a little bit heavier. And maybe like right about in here. You see the top is really light and right in that middle part, it's okay. So I'm going to go straight in. Now, as I go in, my shears are closing on the way out. So I'm going in with my shears, and as I'm coming out, I'm not creating any triangles or anything. I'm just going in and I'm softening up those lines. Now, I'm going straight in, but what if I wanted to create a lot more texture, a lot more movement, or like some people like that kind of punky, funky look, right? So if I wanted to create more texture, again, I'm going to leave 2 inches out, and I'm going to go in and more of an angle and create those big triangles, taking a lot more weight out, creating a lot more movement to that. Okay, and you can see how now I'm creating more movement, more texture to that haircut. You see how now it's not so heavy versus the other side? The other side doesn't even doesn't have any life to it. So my favorite technique to do on any haircut, you can do it on any technique, any haircut, is going in with that fan cutting and creating just that movement right on that top layer. Okay, so that's gonna be one of the things that you're gonna be playing with here in just a minute. Okay, so going out, leaving 2 inches, curve those. So you're just curving those knuckles, and you're going straight in. Find where those darkest parts are. Okay, if you want to do just very minimal, again, I go straight in and I come out. I'm cutting on the way out. Be very careful. You will cut yourself if you're cutting on the way in. Okay, so if I'm cutting on the way in, I'm just going straight from my finger. So I don't want to do that. I want to do that on the way out. Okay, and you're gonna see that she's getting a lot more movement without getting a whole bunch of layers. Okay, and this is gonna be that little Dora the Explorer cut. So you can see that how now the lines are softer. There's more movement. So as she moves, you can see that hair starting to move. Okay. Another thing that you can do is what we call back cutting. Back cutting is gonna be for that client that says, I want a lot more volume on top, but my hair is it falls flat. So how can I create more volume without giving her more layers? So I'm going to take a little section. I'll just start right back here, just so you can see. I'm going to take a little section. You're working with the center of my shears. Think of you kind of teasing the hair, right, with your comb. But instead of using your comb, you're going to use your shears. So I'm going to go straight in about, more towards the end. As I bring that hair down, I'm going to push the hair down. Okay, so I'm not taking very much off. I'm just really lightening up that load. So the reason that we do it, and remember, when you're doing it, you want to do it underneath the section, because these little pieces that you're going to be cutting, right? So I go again towards the end, push that down. As I'm pushing, I'm closing my shears ever so slightly. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, as you're creating those little pieces underneath, now you're creating something that can hold that hair and create that volume for your client. So that client that says my hair falls flat all the time, you'll be able to create a little bit of texture underneath, so those pieces will hold the hair as it's falling over. Does that make sense? So one more time, this is my favorite thing to do. This is also really good for right around the fringe area, because it'll soften up that bang for them, so that they don't have a heavy line in that bang area. And you can see exactly what's getting created. A lot of texture, a lot of movement without creating a lot of layers. Okay, and this is what I was saying in the previous cut. I used to think that because I would see movement, it was layers. But it wasn't layers, it was movement and texture that they were creating. And it was these texturizing skills that they were using. Okay? All right, enjoy.